To leaders who are shaping the future of work. Each episode, we work with CEOs and senior leaders delving into transformative dynamics of today's workforce. The goal is to generate authentic and real-world content that resonate with professionals across different industries, offering them both inspiration as well as practical insights for their professional and personal growth. On that note, I'm thrilled to be joined by Mr. Srinivasan, who is the CEO of Neuro Networks India Pvt. Ltd. Sir, it's a pleasure to have you with us. First and foremost, Happy New Year. And how are you doing?
A very Happy New Year, and thank you for having me.
So brilliant. So let's jump right in. Neuro Networks is aiming to be as one of the global hyper-convergence market, right? Can you walk us through the story of Nuron Network from its early days to where it stands now in terms of team and revenue?
I'll just give you a precursor of 30 seconds of exactly what is the genesis of Nuron.
Sure.
So Nuron is the first cloud stack based internet service provider for India. The genesis of that is the founders who basically come from the background of having run successful telecom companies and work for telecom networks. I, for myself, have worked for telecom networks in Southeast Asia. And post that, basically having that, I have been into the field of engineering and development, program management, and subsequently basically ran a successful company for designing the telecom gear. And then once that got acquired, started laying the foundation of Nuron. So any business plan is a runway, it's a runway, it's a progression it is. You never basically come and start off, it's a branch from a central tree. You never basically start and planting a new tree in the place. Because the thought process of an entrepreneur is always a progression. It's a chain of events which comes in. So my previous company was related to box manufacturing and deployment of technology, indigenous technology, fiber optics technology in telecom networks. We worked with close to 126 telcos worldwide and had manufacturing units outside India. And we catered to close to approximately around 12 to 14 countries. As an Indian company, we were the first Indian multinational to go outside India, set up manufacturing plants and start shipping products across to them. Now, the point is that having traversed through that particular journey, we felt is that most of the telcos with whom we worked had predominantly the customer experience, though the mantra everywhere in the collaterals are all customer experience. But we found out is that customer always comes the last. It's the gear what you buy, it's the product what you buy, it's your operational efficiencies or inefficiencies. Predominantly, we saw the pattern. I don't say every telco is like that, but what I'm trying to say is that predominantly when you take a large section of it, it was like that. And that's worldwide. When I'm talking about Southeast Asia to North Africa, we basically saw this particular part of it. We then got the concept is that is there a way by which we can build a telecom network specifically for the customer and his experience? People like you who are doing this podcast and many like you who want to use quality internet, more often than not, would always be looking at the aspect of how can this internet work for me? And that's precisely what we call as customer experience. And we started laying down the foundation for that. Over the period of this particular journey, which started off in 2015-16 as a legal entity, we took off in 2019 and we became commercial in 2019, which is for the first, what we call as a commercial year, which was declared to the board. We are a 100% equity invested company, one of the few ISPs in the country to be 100% equity invested. And what we did is that we started acquiring towns. So the important part of Nuron is we believe in completely inorganic fashion of growth. Now, let me just define it very quickly for you. When you look at Airtel, Jio, when you look at ACT, since you're in Bangalore, you would know ACT. All these companies are organic internet service providers, which means is that they lay their own fibers, they go to the customer homes, they basically ensure us that they activate the customer and then they give the service. In our case, what happens is we are only based out of the data center. And then when I go to a particular town, let's say hypothetically speaking, I go to a town called Davanagere. In Davanagere, I identify local operators, ISPs, hyperlocal operators, last mile operators, local cable operators, and talk to them and ensure us that they are onboarded and they partner with us. And then we train them to basically lay down the kind of a telecom network which will in turn will deliver quality, which is this years of experience of working with telcos to be brought inside as best practices and deliver the services to the end customer. Take control of the end customer's customer experience. And the customer experience starts with a simple payment. The local operators used to go to house to collect payment. We said very clearly is that digitizes, thanks to UPI and NPCI today, we are able to basically digitize payments. So we basically started bringing in simple things like trying to say to the local operator, you focus on your core competency of either expansion or maintaining your network. Rest you leave it to us, we will take care of it. And that's how basically this journey started in 2019. Today, if you really look at it, in 3 years of time, which is 36 months of operation, we are close to approximately 400 towns. We are in 4 states, Tamil Nadu, Pondicherry, Karnataka, and Goa. Karnataka is our mainstay market today because we started from that market and the other markets are expanding. Tamil Nadu, Pondicherry, and Goa started in 2024 January, 2023 January, which is this year. And we are just 1 year in. It takes approximately, and we are already, if you really look at the penetration. Now, the other things to be highlighted is to be seen specifically is the speed at which this business plan can grow. So in 2023 January, when we basically opened up Tamil Nadu has totally 38 districts. We are already in 22 districts today. When you really look at Goa, which is having around 11 taluks, we are already in 9 taluks, right? And when you really look at it from the standpoint of Pondicherry, which is basically divided into multiple pieces, we are there in the complete Pondicherry town. So what I mean to say is that the new age telcos which are going to be built are going to be built in the fashion of what Neuron is going to be built. The core of the Neuron. So what makes Neuron kind of special is because of the reason is the kind of technology what we use. This is where your hyper-convergence comes into place. Now, hyper-convergence is a term which simply defined is compute, network, and storage put together and how you basically roll it out as a single sandwich out to the market. But when you really look at it from the standpoint of bringing hyper-convergence to a market like Bharat, you see, Bangalore is one and Bharat is different when you really look at rest of Karnataka. The capabilities there, the per capita there, the consumption patterns there are totally different. Each town has its own consumption pattern. If you go towards Udupi's consumption patterns are different, but when you go to Honavar or Karwar, the consumption patterns are different. So how can you make a network which in turn will enable, I wouldn't use the word highly customized, but highly tailored basically for the end customer. And that's precisely what hyperconvergence delivers to us. So we are broadly in this area called edge computing, right? Mm-hmm. So we deploy edges in deep edges, I would say, in towns like Karwar, Honavar. So we have close to around 56, 57 towns in that zone, which in turn where we have deployed deep edges. And these deep edges in its simplistic form today will enable us to basically give a quality of service to the end customer. It learns the service and it does. We have not brought in AI, we have not brought in machine learning yet, but the roadmap is to basically make the deep edge a kind of a neural compute which in turn will learn the method in which you are using your internet and try and shape the internet towards you. Imagine a situation wherein if you are into a podcast and you want to basically use a type of internet, and then you are browsing and you're using different type of internet, and suddenly somebody in your house starts gaming and it's a different type of an internet. The compute learns about your internet and starts giving you the quality of service, ensures us that you are not in the queue of the congestion, but it just manages your congestion traffic right from Carvar till basically, let's say, the Valorant or the Steam server, which is based in Singapore. It manages the complete traffic and removes all the constraints so that you have a kind of a VIP tour and you run in that particular highway. So this is the vision of Neuron, what we are trying to do. The second vision of Neuron was that in this is our B2B2C segment. And the second vision of Neuron was to basically get into the B2B segment to help companies build networks like this. So the B2B2C segment basically becomes a large sandbox of across, let's say, 1,000 towns. And then we basically go to large companies. Hypothetically, a company called ABC, which is already running operations like an MSO. MSOs are multi-system operators who basically deliver cable business. And let's say they want to build an internet business, or let's say a tier 2 telco wants to build basically a internet business or grow his internet business. We will then be able to give this piece of tech to them and consulting to them, which in turn entails them to basically take this hyper-convergence, edge computing, and grow. End of the day, the larger picture of the whole scenario is like this. I think in the earlier part of the call we had and we spoke about golf, if you remember. You see, when you are playing with somebody and at any point of time the person is, had a bad shot and you have an observation, you just tell him very clearly, hey, this is my observation and I believe if you do this, it becomes better. Very similar to that is in business too. You see, end of the day, the result will always come, revenues will always come. But if it happens in such a way by which you are able to help other companies do it and you're not doing anybody any favor, end of the day, the country gains. You see, if the country gets 100 million broadband lines, you have added in the neighborhoods of around 1 to 1.6% to the GDP you have added. And you have done your contributions in your own way. I think that gives you the kind of width of what Neuron is all about.
It's very impressive, sir. What I hear is all about the customer service, speed, and operational efficiencies that you bring to the table, right? And needless to say, global hyper-convergence market, it is a market that's growing. I've read somewhere it's almost growing by 38 billion by 2028.
The CAGR is very healthy for the broadband business because everybody wants to be connected. But the important part out here is that how do you build a global telco? You see, in the last 15, 20 years of my active participation in this telecom market, one of the things what I've always seen is that the telecom is a regional business. It was never a global business. For the first time, Neuron has laid the foundation for being a global telco from day one. So I have a data center which is catering to Tamil Nadu, Pondicherry, Goa, and Karnataka from a single place. What stops me to start Jakarta tomorrow 8 a.m. or for that matter Sri Lanka tomorrow? Because the reason is it's all about connectivity and driving the traffic back and processing the same traffic. Because the Sri Lanka market connectivity is no different than a Pondicherry market connectivity in theory. So the concept of Indian companies is to basically have a global vision and look at it from the standpoint of trying to say, and anyway, India in the last 7 years has already announced its arrival in the global market. So it's time that we entrepreneurs have to start thinking global from day one, whatever we do, and global customer experience.
I completely agree with you, Srini. Why not, right? I mean, you being one of the rising players and now being global, and that number could easily be replicated in terms of the growth you had from 2019 to 24, right? I could see in terms of employees, you've grown almost by 130%. Is that fair to say? Almost.
It's a fair statement to make, yes.
It's pretty impressive, Srini.
And the most important part of this particular statement is that whether you take our engineering or whether you take our operations, the average age in our organization is 29.
Wow.
So we have a very young set of people who have been empowered, and we will be talking more about it in the form of a culture and looking at it from the standpoint of, telling them that you drive it. We are there at the back.
That's pretty impressive, Srini. On that note, and as you know that as a leader, change is constant in the business world and adaptability is the key, right? And how has your leadership style evolved post-pandemic?
So I would say is that as a business, we never went through pandemic, right? As a society, we went through the pandemic, but not as a business because we come under the Essential Services Act. And both the legal administration of the state as well as basically the public administration of the state supported us in big time when everybody were absolutely put inside the house. We were the people on the roads and always moving around because internet was a critical requirement. But having said this, a lot of things changed beyond the COVID. And I think if we have to centralize all the factor, I think is that organizations like us, we have developed a lot of empathy, right? A lot of understanding has come in. COVID was a good reset of the speed at which we were running. And it ensured us that it delivered empathy to us. There was a lot of understanding which came in. The philosophy and the culture was the same pre-COVID and post-COVID. But I think we can say that a vector of empathy has been added to this particular culture.
That's pretty impressive, Srini. And first and foremost, thank you for all the support that you've given to people, right? Being an essential service provider, it was not easy. Yeah. Hats off to you and to your team, where relentlessly you went above beyond to support people, right? And that was one of the core need. I mean, if you reflect, I mean, nobody expected we will be working hybrid workforce, right? That's one of the trend. And in fact, for organizations to adapt to remote work was itself, and in fact, many companies were not used to that, right? Nobody expected that kind of scale. But thanks to you, to your team, and
you see, there was a lot of sorry to intervene, but there's a lot of reinvention which was done in an organization, and that was done in every organization. None of us were prepared that we need to move our call centers to the house, and some of us, when we went down with COVID, thankfully I did not. But some of us, when we went down with the COVID, the other people stood for them from somewhere else. And the most important part was there was a very clear, I'm sorry, I just got a call in. Sorry. And the most important part was is that the team building effort was organic. We never put any effort for team building. It was actually organic. Each one was holding on to each other's back. If somebody had their parents or somebody in their house had gone down with COVID and they were basically had to tend them or take care of them, or somebody had to go to the hospital for whatever reasons, the other person stepped in. There was nothing called shift system which was brought in, rosters which were brought in, which is how we have looked at it pre-COVID. People just stood by. And today I can say, post 2-3 years of COVID, I'm seeing basically that same arrangement coming in. The tu mai, which is there in an organization, is completely gone. That is what I call empathy. People have started realizing one thing is that, there's a huge reset. Maybe I'm packaging these statements in a proper way. Maybe other people don't package it, but this is the general observation from a lot of people in their organization.
This is a fair thing, Srini. In fact, empathy is one of the key core component, right, that bridges the gap. And it's very, very important to understand people's feeling. Going back to the statement that you said, right, in terms of people lending and supporting each other in that crisis, that's the way we kind of move forward. But on that note, Srini, as you know, we are living in the generative AI era. I know as a business, you're still not adapting it, but many businesses are really looking into it. This is causing a lot of disconcern for employees, right? What's going to happen to my job? Or people are wondering, so what kind of leadership style do you think is it required now in the generative AI era?
You see, whether it's life, whether it's going to be business, or whether it's anything else, it is always the unknown which you fear, right? And when there is an unknown, which is mathematically it's exponential situation, what we call it, right? The first and foremost, what you do is that you go to what's your core, right? And what's your core? The core is going to be culture. And the culture has to be further defined because culture is a term of 60,000 feet. You have to further divide it and you have to bring it down to maybe 30,000 feet or maybe 20,000 feet to the people. My observation, and I'm not an expert in this, nor I would say, but I am also iterative in my growth. But my observation has been is that fundamentally the culture, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as my organization and the other co-stakeholders are concerned, we all believe is that there are three pillars for culture, right? I mean, one is discipline. Sorry, just one second. And one is basically discipline. And the second one is being fearless. And the third and the most important part is innovation. Now, let's not link any of these things to either a technology or the way it's just way of life. So when you talk discipline, first and foremost is process. Create your own processes. Create a template don't create a template for yourself, but a process, which in turn will enable you to understand exactly as to how you break a complex problem into simple, small steps. Right? The second and the most important thing is being fearless. Don't be scared to commit a mistake. Take that leap of faith. Commit that mistake. See exactly what you learn out of it. Go to the next step. You become wiser in very many ways. And the most important part is that when you learn from the fault, you tend to then basically create new processes. And then you bring the discipline factor again to follow that process till you commit the next mistake. And you'll start seeing a consistency pattern coming in. If you want to be a great engineer, you want to be a great sportsman, you want to be a great leader, or you want to be a great entrepreneur, or you want to be a great anything what you want to be, the first and foremost is being good is just not enough. You have to be consistently good. And being consistent is only derived with a process. Don't suspect your process. Relook at your process and see what best I can do. But don't suspect your process and say, I think I'm process driven, so let me get out of the process. No, don't do this. So that's the second part. And the third part is innovation. At every step, at every day, you are capable of innovating your thoughts, you're innovating your ideas. Look at it from the standpoint of what can I do different? Now, when you say what you can do different, people usually say it's a very thin line dividing into exponentiality. I'm trying to say what you can do different, derive a process for that thought of being different. Sorry, I have a lot of calls coming in today. I'm sorry about that. And then what happens is that once you have thought something different, create the process for that, follow that process. See exactly where it goes. Now, what is the most important thing about process? People think process is monitoring so that somebody can monitor us. It's no. Process is about forensic. Process is when you follow the steps of doing it, and when you have gone wrong, you are able to retrace path back and come to a point, a midpoint from where basically you believe that the results have started coming in a different way. And that's precisely what I'm looking at it in the form of a process. So process is very important when you're innovating. So innovation, fearlessness, and discipline are the three pillars of culture, what I believe an organization like us should have. And that's precisely what we practice into the people out here.
That's pretty impressive, Srini, in a way, because as you rightly pointed, right, you got 20 at the you got average age of 29 young people, and being part of that culture that kind of exhibits being fearless and have a well-defined discipline with one way, as you rightly pointed, when you said discipline is in terms of having the right processes and having that innovative mindset can you could go above and beyond your life job on the job, right? On that note, Shrini, as you're scaling your businesses, right, the way you kind of scaled your business over the last 2 years, what do you see is the biggest challenge in maintaining that culture, like the culture of discipline, fearless, and innovation, especially in these times? Because you got more young people coming in, because what we are seeing, companies, right, as they scale, instead of being a me culture, it has to become we culture. So what do you see as the biggest challenge in your company?
Let's specifically focus on to the young engineers and the young professionals who are coming and joining us. You see, I will touch upon this in a cause effect kind of an environment. In the next 5 years, the human resource philosophy is going to get redefined by generative AI.
Yep.
Right? The skills what you know today are going to be redundant tomorrow because the AI is able to execute it. Every corporate, every company, every organization will be looking at it from the standpoint of basically ensuring is that they want to save cost. Because you are going to have an inflationary trend of working. Whomever you hire, your salaries are going to be definitely higher from what you are planning today. And the costs, the structures, the taxes, when you really look at it, the cost of doing business is going to be higher. So the organization will be looking at smaller footprints, lower footprints as an organization when you want to go to in the next 5 years of time. You're not going to have, or rather you will not listen to the regular stories of what you used to listen 10 years back, where you used to say is that, hey, this organization is 5,000 people, 10,000 people, 3,000 people. You're going to increasingly listen to basically trying to say is that they are a 200 member team, they are a 50 member team, and etc. Now, how do you achieve it? You can't do magic by basically converting 1,000 people to 50 people and then still run the business at the same scale. So automation is going to come in a large way. And what activities which otherwise you were basically looking at it to basically put manpower in place, that is going to be replaced by automation systems in place. Let me give an example to you. Customer is looking at it from the standpoint of saying very clearly, and our business says that internet is not working, right? So the first thing what you expect is you raise a ticket and there is a person who comes to your house and he solves your problem and he goes out. What can be the alternative? The alternative can be is that you have a generative AI engine with which you basically simply say that my internet is not working. The generative AI talks through an orchestrator and comes back and scans your complete line and all the switches and routers which are delivering and doing the job of delivering to you, understanding where the problem is all about, keep you informed is that this activity will take this much of time for restoration, and then look at it, basically inform the concerned people is that you have this specific problem. Do you want me to basically rectify it on a self-healing mode, or would you like to basically intervene and then do it? Self-healing, self-optimization is the hallmark of hyper-converged networks which are going to be coming in. And self-healing networks are going to come in much faster than what we can imagine. Intent-based networks are going to come in much faster than you can imagine. Intent-based means whatever the customer is intending to do with the internet, AI learns it and shapes the service accordingly to what you need. As far as you are concerned, you got what you want. I'll give a simple example to you. Every time you hire a Uber every day at 9:30 to go to the office, and you basically typically take a Swift Desire kind of a car, which is a sedan car, and you book. As usual, when you are going on a vacation with your family, you book an Uber. Imagine the Uber basically decides to send an MUV or a larger vehicle like an Innova to you because they know very well is that you're going for a vacation and you are four passengers and you're going to have luggages. Intent-based networking is going to come in wherein the services will be shaped on a very sharp understanding of what the customer is going to be. So idea here is that when all these are all happening in a manual, quasi-manual kind of an environment at the back, where people are churning numbers, people are churning everything, and basically trying to look at it in terms of an upsell which is happening through the call centers. This will happen automatic. So when this all happens, the people who have got skilled in all these areas will become redundant. System has taken over. So generative AI is going to be coming in a much larger way of disruption. Now, if you want to take it as a disruption, then you can take it as a disruption. You can take this as an opportunity. Reskill yourself. So when you really look at, this is about experienced people, but look at young engineers who are coming in into the environment. We have a culture out there. The culture says very clearly, be fearless, commit mistake, learn from the mistake. Now, the point is that the biggest problem the young people have today is lack of opportunities. Everybody wants experienced people, or anybody who hires from the campuses today hires them for mundane jobs, for a support activity or something. Innovation has to come in. You have to understand one thing, Kiran. This country, and especially you and me, have to be proud of with so many people around, is just that we are a 5,000-year DNA company, a country which has such a rich heritage, and that is in our DNA memory. We were innovators of the world. We gave innovation in so many different ways to the world, which today the world itself is basically implementing it and getting it back to us. Somewhere at some point of time, the clock has got reversed. And we have become the followers of the whole system.
Completely.
But that DNA memory is there in you. Absolutely. Nobody has told you not to use the DNA memory. And when does the DNA memory come out? Is when you attempt to do something, when an opportunity is given to that particular person, rather than the person being doing. So that's one thing what we do with youngsters. We bring them in and it's baptism by fire. We tell them very clearly that this is what you need to do. This is how the process is all about. This is what you need to do. Don't worry about it. If you want to innovate it while you are on the process, following a process, do it. You will commit a mistake, come back to us and tell us, I did this particular mistake, what else I could have done. We will tinker your process. Go back. So that's one way of looking at things. Willingness to play for long haul is very important for young engineers. Everything is not fast food. So if you want to basically look at it a long haul, how will you pace your long haul? 3 years is a generalist kind of an environment for an engineer. Learn anything what you get. Nibble on everything what you get around you. See exactly what is the flavor of what you are basically trying to eat and grasp. And then after that, look at the aspect of spending the next 3 years to try and find out a specialization area for yourself. And once you have started identifying it, then after that, think innovation beyond that. So idea here is that for this, you have to have the mindset of a long haul. When you play golf, as what we discussed, you have the mindset to play 18 holes. You cannot come and say very clearly, Acha man, I have finished my 9 holes and now I think then I will add my 18 holes. You don't know how to pace yourself. Pacing your stamina, pacing your focus levels and everything out there. Everything matters and exactly as to how you want to play. It all depends upon what you want for yourself. So look, pacing for long haul is important. The second thing which needs to be understood, and especially in a country like India, or especially Southeast Asia and South Asia kind of a culture, is that focus is given on education. Focus is not given on knowledge. Education is very important. You see, education, when a person does 4 years of engineering, gets a good CGPA, congratulations to him, and it's good. But what you need to understand, one aspect is that an education is a passport for 5 years. And after that, my friend, your flight's taken off. It's only knowledge for the next 40 years. Otherwise, you are caught in this environment that I was a bright student, I did well in my education. Why is it that I'm not having a takeoff in my career? It's primarily because of the fact is that the world outside that 5 years is a practical war ground. And there you have to basically, you need to have a war-like knowledge or battle knowledge. You need to have as compared to basically the classroom knowledge, what you're looking like. For that to happen, you have to break from the shackles of education and come to the knowledge domain. Listen to people when they are giving you directions. And that's very important for a young engineer to pick up or a young professional to basically pick that up. Right?
It's completely impressive, Srini. I mean, having that long-term mindset and reskilling yourself is the way to go, right? I mean, on that note, Srini, employee engagement is one of been the hot topic because the data points clearly suggest that in India, right, only 33% of employees are actively engaged. The rest are disengaged, right? So, what practices in your organization have you found most effective in your team, engaged and connected at work?
You see, in an organization like ours, we have two divisions. One is the engineering part, and one is basically the execution part. On the operation side, on the execution part, it's a very collective process and it's a very decentralized process. Generally, how operations run is like a defense outfit, it runs, right? You have orders given, then the next person takes it, then the next person takes it, and the next person takes it, and then it gets executed. What we did, a change was is that we added an element of flexibility for a person to think. We said, this is the result what I require. You create the journey yourself and basically do. I wouldn't say these are the exact words what we have used to our people, but we would say is that this much of direction and we have nudged them towards this particular place. End of the day, I require this. You decide how you have to go. Now you have empowered that particular person. So this is how operations and execution runs. In the engineering side, I would say that we are a very fledgling engineering unit today, barely 2 years old. And we are looking at it from the standpoint of, yes, empowering them, at the same time creating that fearlessness inside them, right? Fearlessness to talk, fearlessness to come out with an idea in a review. I don't ask my team leaders, what do you think about it? I ask that the junior engineer to say exactly as to what do you think I should do? And then that person has to come in. More often than not, India and Indian engineers have had the culture primarily from the standpoint of still they are yet to come out of the classrooms fully, but it's changing. The minute, maybe first month they will not talk, third month they will start to mumble something, but I am for sure in the fourth and the fifth month they will start putting their ideas in place. You cannot drop your vision just because the other person is not following it. Keep doing it relentlessly. People will talk. I always tell my engineers very clearly, don't stay with my company more than 3 years. Go out. I will give you the recommendation. Tell whichever company's team leader, HR, or CEO to call me. Write my name in the resume for reference and I will give you. But don't stay with my company for 3 more years. Why? Because the reason is you then tend to get what is called as an incumbent approach. Go out, explore. You're always welcome to come back. I don't have the concept of circle of faith where you leave me once you cannot come back. You can always come back, but go out. Fly out of the nest. And that's when you will go and explore. Fight there, you will fail. Fight there again. If you still fail, you believe you want to take a security loop, come back. So idea here is that this security enables them because there is no concept of trying to say, Acha, if I resign, I will tell a lie. Nothing. I tell people very clearly, Are Baba, tumko jana hai, jao. Koi problem nahi hai. In fact, I would say is that in your resume, edit and put my name as a reference and go. So that if when your HR or somebody gives a call, they know who to call. And I will talk to them and give them the feedback. So this all is, a culture is not a very 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional, or 4-dimensional. It's 360-degree concept it is. At every stage, you give security, you add empathy, you basically add a direction to the particular person, and it's a holistic development which you have to give to a young engineer, and that's precisely the way you can make them inclusive. Are we successful? Scale of 10, 6.
No, that's a very bold and courageous assessment, Srini. In fact, it all comes down to
It's work in progress. It's work in progress.
Work in progress.
Because the reason is sometimes walk the talk doesn't happen, but I would say it's work in progress. We are trying and we will continue trying.
No, it's great. And then going back to the culture that you have, right, being fearless. And that's pretty important for your team as well, for your people to come, right, come with some innovative ideas, how they can bring creativity or workplace as well. Is they can only bring by being fearless. And going back in terms of as a leader, Srini, what are your biggest people challenges? Because as a leader, right, one of the things that you have to look at is developing many leaders and people management. So what are your biggest people challenges you have faced, and are there any learnings out of it?
See, when you are really looking from the top, and you should also learn to look from the bottom. When you look from the top, the biggest challenge would be is the culture really seeping through to the bottom of the pyramid of the company? More often than not, you will realize is that professionals, in a very general statement, professionals would look at it from the standpoint of turf controls, insecurity, the mid-management, and they will not basically try and create. Second thing out here is that, you see, what I'm trying to advocate in terms of fearlessness. As a CEO, when I'm sitting and I'm the stand-in CTO, when I'm sitting for an engineering review, and I'm asking a junior engineer, can you please tell me what your view is all about? And if that junior engineer has to say is that I am in disagreement with what you're trying to say because I believe the customer may not look at it like that, it requires a humongous courage for the junior engineer to say. And if he says, you should also have the courage to accept it. So the biggest challenge which happens out here for any culture, a culture is duplex in nature. It's not simplex, that you put it from the top and the gravity will take you down. It is duplex. So you have to learn to ensure us that when other person talks, you have to listen. And if you are not in agreement with that, there is a method with which you have to tell them very clearly is that why you are wrong in this particular way and why my statement is correct, but I still stand for a discussion. So the point is not about trying to bend your back and saying everybody that culture is about fearlessness, so I will accept everything what you say. But the point out here is it's a duplex culture, duplex communication it is, and you have to keep communicating. So the challenges of a leader today is to first of all change the mid layer to ensure us that they are able to follow the same culture with the layer below them. Otherwise, the culture is never going to go. Otherwise, what will happen is it will become a skip development. I have to skip the mid management and go down to ensure us that the people start talking. That creates a process breakdown in very many ways. Because you see, electricity, water, and the nature of a person is the same. It takes the least resistive path. And when you break the organizational hierarchy for whatever reasons, people will bypass it and come and basically start talking to the skip levels. So what happens is that the mid-management levels start getting disgruntled or they are disillusioned because there are process breakdowns, because the process dictates them to be a part of it, whereas everything is happening around them. So we have to take them on board, and this is one of the biggest challenges of any organization, is to ensure us that the mid-management starts translating the culture to the lower management, rather than the management taking it on their hands and basically trying to seep in. I mean, I don't believe in a fact is that, you put a small cardboard piece, type all your culture, put it in your pocket. I don't do all those things. I believe is that it has to go inside the DNA, because this is not about Neuron. It is about their life.
I completely agree, Mr. Srini. Culture is like a wind, right? It is invisible, but it can be seen and felt. And I completely agree with you. And one of the reasons why employees become disengaged and leave the company is because of lack of this, what you talked about, right? Is the mid-management kind of getting confused and not articulating the
65% of the people leave, Kiran, not because of salary or work experience or job profile. They leave because of their managers.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. And I think these are very, very good inputs as well. On final note, Mr. Srini, I know you're a veteran. It's within 1 hour or so I've been talking to you, and I've already learned so much from you. Is that so? What's the wisdom you would like to share for about yourself and your company to our viewers?
Well, honestly speaking, from the part of wisdom, I don't know, but I would say, especially for young engineers, I have a simple 4-point plan, which I basically say to them at any point of time, right? The first is I told you is that, hey, there is lack of opportunities and grab the opportunities because the first 3 years you are a generalist. You wouldn't care a damn as to what comes across you. Start absorbing and learning everything. Don't look at the money. Money will come. Once you have expertise, money will come searching for you. So look at first the opportunities and get ready for long haul, is what I say. The second point, which I always say, is that don't bank on your fast laurels of education. Start seeking knowledge. Do your work. Study. Learn every day. It's important because when the going goes tough is when basically, because you see, when education fails, it is the attitude which wades you through the problem, right? So develop an attitude of learning and say very clear, I can learn new things. The third thing which I always say at any point of time is just that, learn to differentiate between noise and sound, right? There are a lot of noise in this particular environment today. Social media, people talking about race, culture, religion, casteism, local politics, this, that. It's important as a general knowledge. But let it not, you don't get biased with that. That is noise. Pick up the sound out of that. This mythological swan, which was done by Kalidasa, there is nothing called swan, right? I mean, the white swan, there is nothing called white swan, right? It was a mythological creation of Kalidasa. And I believe this is that in one of the poetries of Kalidasa, he wrote that the mythological swan had the capability to drink milk and throw water out and keep the milk in, right? So it could segregate things. These are mythological stories, and I don't know how far it goes. But you should, as a young engineer, you should know how to segregate sound and noise because you should not get distracted. You move in your way, your first 3 years and your next 3 years, how you want to do it. And the fourth and the most is that focus on building your competencies. What is your competency? When you really look back in last 1 year, what is the competency that you have built for yourself? If you do these 4 things, I believe this is not a young engineer is at a strike rate at a probability of 90-95% success.
I mean, those insights are really, really valuable, Srini. And it's been an absolutely pleasure discussing with these insightful topics with you. Thank you for joining us and sharing your journey at Neuron Networks.
Pleasure is mine, Kiran.